Welcome to 39-Minute Conversations. Please wait for your host to begin this meeting. Your meeting is now being recorded.
Okay, can you see me? Can you hear me?
Hey, yo, I can hear you.
I can hear you. I cannot see you yet. Hey, we did it.
Hello, we did it. How's it going?
It's going okay. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I literally just walked in my door. I have good news and bad news, which is
Okay, go. Let's do it.
I walked up to my house and I was like, oh, fuck, the door is open. I've been gone since 10.
Oh,
It's
no.
2. I've been robbed. I go inside. Everything's untouched. Everyone left my shit alone. There's hope for humanity.
Are you sure somebody was in there and you didn't just leave the door open? Can you... Just asking. I'm not trying.
Wouldn't that be so exciting if I'm currently locked inside of my apartment with an intruder?
That would be a big twist for this episode.
The best episode of all time. Someone gets murdered live. It's just like that Netflix show.
I hope that doesn't happen. I will keep an eye out for movement behind you. No problem. And I love that you told me you're running slightly late, but I had no idea all of this was happening. So thank you for still sitting down with me in the middle of all of that.
No. That was just the cherry on top of the day, but here we are.
Well, hopefully this will make the day better. I hope I can do that for you. But before we get started, I do have to do a quick ad read. I apologize. This is always so awkward to make you sit through this, but that is what this is. This week's episode of 39-Minute Conversations is not technically presented by Burn It Down. Full disclosure, I just got my copy, have not read it yet, very excited to crack it open, but Burn It Down is a new expose about the abuse and exploitation rampant in the entertainment industry. In this book, veteran reporter Maureen Ryan illuminates the forces sustaining the most corrosive elements of Hollywood culture. Her reporting sheds lights on problematic situations at places like Lucasfilm, Saturday Night Live, Lost, Sleepy Hollow, many more. Burn It Down features interviews with Evan Rachel Wood, Harold Perrineau, Damon Lindelof, Orlando Jones, and more, discussing the waves of industry reckonings and what did and did not change after. Ryan dismantles the destructive myths of the industry, including the idea that it's purely a meritocracy, some of the toxic ideas about what the creative process requires, and it paints a groundbreaking portrait of what's wrong with the world of entertainment and, importantly, how to fix it. Burn It Down is coming out at another inflection point in Hollywood where unions are standing up and saying enough, that we want to be treated better, that we deserve to make a living, that we deserve to be respected as the artists and creators we are. The Writers Guild, obviously, were on strike, SAG-AFTRA passing their strike authorization vote, with 98% of voters saying that they're willing to walk out. I love movies. I love TV. I love a lot about this industry. Obviously, I wouldn't be here if I didn't. But the system is broken and has been broken in many ways, and Burn It Down is such an important book for the moment that we are in. I haven't read it yet, but I encourage you and myself to read Burn It Down. And hello, I am Brian T. Arnold, and this is 39-Minute Conversations, a podcast about reconnecting with old friends and making new ones. But I've only got 39 minutes to do it because I will not be paying for Zoom Pro. My guest today is a writer and producer that I met on the Netflix picket lines, where they are a strike captain. Their credits include shows like Kevin Can Fuck Himself, Love, Victor, and the upcoming Spiderwick Chronicles. It's harder to say than I thought. Spiderwick Chronicles on Disney+. Please welcome Jasmyne Peck.
Hello,
Jasmyne Peck.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you again for doing this. I'm very excited. Are you kidding me? Like I mentioned up top, we met on the picket lines. We have hung out a little bit there, and we have a shared connection that we bonded over that we will get into. But the first things first, I just want to say that I'm very excited to chat with you and get to know you better. And thank you for taking the time out of your day, even when you maybe have an intruder in your home.
Listen, if they make an appearance, it'll be I come out whenever. Just like
join us.
But the morning was wonderful. I did some like door knocking for my friends. My friend is running for City Council District 14.
Oh, cool.
Against Kevin De Leon. So so I did some of that, and this lady gave me apricots from her yard.
Oh, that's nice.
Delicious apricots.
Yeah.
So I've been having a great day. This is wonderful.
Good. I am glad. You were just doing, I don't know, we'll get into more about it, but you do so much, like in terms of strike captaining, in terms of obviously political work, and then you work with the Black Film Allegiance and Allegiance, Black Film Allegiance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you work with all those cool organizations. Like, how do you find time and keep the passion going to do all this different stuff?
I think the those questions are intertwined with each other, because like the passion makes you make the time.
Mhm.
And I think the passion comes from, I don't know, I grew up in a household that cared a lot about social movements and politics, and sort of tried to educate me on why being involved was necessary.
Mhm.
And in undergrad, I further developed my sort of like social and political ideology. I was in a program there that did like domestic and international service work, which is fraught in its own way.
Sure.
I would categorize it parts of it as like volunteerism, but not all. Um,
Mhm.
and much more community based than I think a lot of those programs typically are, community first. And so our job is really to like learn about people and build relationships with people, and then address needs that they brought to the table, versus like going in and being like, oh, we heard y'all need this, so do this.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Taking a bunch of pictures and leaving,
yeah,
all those things.
exactly. Yeah, very NGO heavy.
Yeah.
And then I came out here and got caught up in like trying to do grad school and get a job and all of those things. And so I've slowly found my way back to the political organizing side of things too. Which
That's
is,
cool. That's really cool. It's cool that you take all that, like that's a cool thing that like not everybody spends their time like, I think we all believe in a lot of these causes and we do what we can, but not everybody walks the walk in that way. So it's great that you take the time and do that work.
thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
of
And
course.
everybody has like capacity and space for what they have time for. So like when I was in school, I wasn't doing shit, but like,
Sure.
oh, I have to be on set for class. Oh, let me just whatever. So now
Hmm.
that I have the time to reinvigorate, I'm like reading more books and like refamiliarizing myself. And also I'm a California transplant, as you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and so I've lived here for like almost 7 years. But the last two is when I've really started to get actually involved with like building community in California.
Mm.
Um, and like being involved in my neighborhood and meeting my neighbors and like going to my local garden and seeing like and becoming like a part of the fabric of the space, instead of just like someone who shows up and experiences it in
Yeah.
their circles, you know.
I think that's great. And that actually leads to something I was going to ask. And I think you kind of already answered it, but I might just ask in a slightly different way because I'm a bad interviewer. I did like this podcast was born out of like the pandemic and out of like I used to perform a lot. I used to do a lot of like improv and sketch comedy and things. And then once all that shut down, I needed something to do that was a little bit, social and performative and things that I was missing out on from the safety and comfort of my own home. Um, so that's kind of how the pandemic kind of changed me. It turned me into a little bit more of a shut-in than I was before. It sounds like you are on the opposite end of the spectrum. During the pandemic, you were going out and like doing work and like with people, and like that's kind of it was when that reinvigorated for you. But I'll just ask, that included, or however you want to answer, obviously. How do you think the pandemic changed you? How are you today different than you were, say, in 2019?
Oh, whoa, you're asking me hard-hitting questions, Ryan. This is
I'm
why,
a serious interviewer.
yeah, this is why the people come here to 30 minute. Um, I think it's interesting because I really just, I guess, yeah, 2022 is still pandemic times, but like early pando, um, I hate that I said that.
I love it. I love it.
Early pandemic, I was living like by myself in this
Hmm.
really shitty little apartment. I had pigeons that like roosted in between the top of my room and the ceiling. So every morning I would just hear like I was losing my actual mind.
Yeah.
And I had some like friends that would come and drive by my house, and we would get on the phone while they sat in their car, and that was like my human interaction.
Sure. Yeah.
So it forced me to like put myself out there a little bit more, and I joined like this language learning group it was like a queer language learning group for Japanese. And I did that for a while, and like did more like I was into, what was it called? That app. You know that app?
Oh my God, that app. Which app? Okay.
You know that app. And it was like no video, and the whole thing was that you would get into rooms and talk.
Oh. Gosh. I can't think of it, but I believe you. I believe that it was a thing.
What was the name of it? It started with a C. It's gonna come up in
Okay, we'll figure it out.
And we'll figure it out. It's really not important. But I started like having a lot of conversations with people in those sort of digital spaces.
Wasn't not chat roulette. That was before. That was like the creepy thing before that did have video
No.
where people were showing their dicks off a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Chat roulette and Omegle were the two that people were doing. Like, oh, like this could be a pleasant conversation, or it's a penis. One of the two.
Only two options. Only two options.
But what was it? Clubhouse.
There it is. I should have. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like trying to build space and making sure that people still had like community. And I did a lot of stuff with Black Film Allegiance, like on Clubhouse and things like that. But I moved back to West Virginia actually during the pandemic.
Oh wow.
Moved all of my shit out of my shitty pigeon apartment and then moved back to my grandparents' home where my grandma still lives in West Virginia. Lived with her for like a year until I needed to come back. That was when I was still working in development, and so I sort of like, and I started writing actually while I was living in West Virginia also.
Okay. I want to get into all that. Let's get into the West Virginia angle of it all first, because that is that is the thing that we first bonded over. I think it was day one of the strike. I'm out there on the picket lines. I know a couple people, but not many. And I'm just, feature writers don't know anybody. So I'm just, we're very lonely. So I'm just out there. I'm out there just walking by myself. And then I just hear like, hey, West Virginia. I'm wearing a West Virginia hat at that time. And it's so rare that you run into anybody from West Virginia in LA. There's not many of us who make it out at all, let alone this far. So how often, you're not from there originally, I don't think, right? You kind of were up and down the East Coast.
Yeah.
But how long did you live in West Virginia? Obviously, including, I guess, the last year of the pandemic. Is that your grandparents are from there? My grandpa
was from there.
Okay.
He went to high school with like Bill Withers, so wherever.
I was gonna ask him. I didn't know. That's crazy because I literally have written down that you're from Beckley, which is where Bill Withers is from, and he is a top 5 West Virginian. That's crazy.
Exactly. A Hall of Fame. I would say Bill Withers is like #1 West Virginian.
Arguably, he's either 1 or 2 because Jerry West is the NBA logo. So there's like, it's close. I would put those two like at the top though.
Yeah, right there. Okay, those two, and then who else is from like? Jennifer Garner,
Steve Harvey, John F. Nash, who was the subject of A Beautiful Mind. He's from my hometown.
Okay, yeah. They made us watch A Beautiful Mind so many times in high school. I was like, I'm gonna burn this building down if you show me A Beautiful Mind one more time. Like, get the baby out of the bathtub, John.
Did you also watch a lot of October Sky? Was that one that you guys had? Yep, that's Homer Hickam, also West Virginia.
Yep.
Chuck Yeager.
Yeah, Yeager Airport, all those good, all the greats.
See, there's a few of us, and now Jasmyne Peck and Brian T. Arnold. Right? Yeah, what's that?
Chris Sarandon,
Brad Dourif.
Okay.
George Brett, the baseball player. There's a few of us. We're doing okay.
Right. And Brian and Jasmine. So
exactly, new generation.
Yeah. So my grandpa's family is from Beckley. And so growing up, I was there like every summer, at my grandparents' house. And
Okay.
then when I was in like the middle of 8th grade, we moved to West Virginia, and I did high school there and finished 8th grade.
How was West Virginia for you? Like, it's a mixed bag in a lot of ways.
It is. I think like having the small town family experience is really nice,
Yeah,
and, like having all your cousins and being able to like be in community with them and see them all the time, and have those spaces is awesome. I think I was just talking today about like West Virginia's political history and
hmm,
the way
interesting.
it's interesting. It's very interesting because like it's not what I think most people would expect if they
Hmm.
just like were judging based on the court of public opinion of the state.
Sure.
Um
It's also gone downhill a lot, though. Like, I understand where the public opinion's at now, but it was for a long time a Democratic state.
Fact.
It for people who don't know it's separated from Virginia to lead the Confederacy to fight against the Confederacy.
Yeah, to lead the union. Yeah.
Yeah, to join the Union.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like there is like progressive history in West Virginia that now has just been kind of like, we left the Confederacy, but you'll still see a good chunk of Confederate flags when you roll around West Virginia these days.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like so that, and like its history is a state that is essential to the overall United States history of labor organizing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Matewan, like Matewan, like
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's like not talked about enough, especially like as a coal mining state, and like the amount of work that miners did in union
Mm-hmm.
struggles in West Virginia, and what that did for labor organizing overall is huge. And they had some very like bloody
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Battle of Matewan, and then like all the company store stuff that were fought against, and West Virginia is like it's not something they really teach you growing up in West Virginia that much. I don't think they want you to kind of know that stuff, but yeah, actually, when you think about it, it is like a huge. Unions were a big deal in West Virginia, and they still kind of are, even as the state turns more and more red and leaves that history behind a little bit.
yeah, it's unfortunate. I think like my experience was definitely in that duality, and I did go to high school with kids that like wore Confederate flags on their t-shirts, and
Mm-hmm.
like I remember this kid bringing his grandpa's like SS medal with him to
Oh
show
fuck.
off and like shit like that, alongside like my cousin Mariah and like other people like existing can in a more like a much different political and
Yeah.
social space. But it's also like a everyone waves hello state, even if you have a
Yep.
your logo on your truck. Like everyone's like very hi, how are you? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how's your day? Um, and I think that identity politics and sort of the way that racism exists is like a buttress for capitalism has
Mm-hmm.
really affected the way that people in that state in particular like address their own needs. And if people
Mm-hmm.
like really took a look at like how they were being treated and who was fulfilling those needs and who wasn't, I think maybe we would have a different um political landscape in the state as well.
It'd be
But
nice, and I think that's a national problem. Like just the idea of it's the economic. It's really like an economic divide in this country, but we're being pointed, but the poor whites are kind of being pointed against. Like, but it's the others that are the problem, not the rich folk. And that has been a huge problem in West Virginia, obviously, and continues to be a huge problem in this country. It's obviously you do all this stuff. It's just gross. Uh, Growing up in West Virginia, when did you know that, like, obviously the social justice and all these things are very important to you? When did you know that you wanted to work in film and TV? And I know you use those themes a lot. Those themes are important to you in like your writing. So when did you decide, like, well, film and TV is how I utilize this stuff and what I want to do for my life?
I really wanted to be an actor in high school. I
Oh yeah.
was convinced. I had played Yinta in my school's production of Fiddler on the Roof. I was like, bet, like NYU, here I come, baby, like whatever. And I applied to a bunch of schools. Some of them I got into. NYU, I did not get in.
Sure.
But the school that gave me the most scholarship money was St. John's in Queens, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where I did that program. It's called the Autism Scholars Program. If you are graduating high school and you're thinking about somewhere to go and you want to travel and like also do social justice shit, that's an amazing program. Of course, like it's a Catholic Vincentian institution, so take everything with that. I'm doing a hand motion. If you're listening, take everything with that when you
Sure.
go into it. But I think it does a good job of providing an entry point if are trying to do organizing work, and people in that have gone on to do some really cool things.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a TV film production major, and I was broke, and I like didn't I like didn't want to go to the school that my mom had gone to for undergrad. That's the other school that I got like a lot of scholarship money for. And I was like, I'm not going because she went. So I'm never going. And then my mom was like, okay, that's fine. And you have to go to St. John's. And I was like, copy, will do. And things just sort of unfolded from there. Yeah.
So you didn't, so you originally wanted to act, and then you got into the TV film production and writing and all of that.
Mhm.
So what I think is kind of interesting, growing up where we kind of grew up, it is about as far removed as from this industry as you can be. And I personally was like, well, I can't go to film school. One, I can't afford it. Two, like, what am I going to do with my life if I don't make it in what I want to do? Did you have like a backup plan? Or were you like, no, I'm all in on this?
That's really interesting. I mean, to your first point, I think I felt that it was possible. One, because I like my mom did a really good job, like my family did a really good job of making me feel like things were possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, but also I had seen there's a kid ahead of me in school. His name is Brooks Klein, and he went to NYU. He like made it into Tisch, and because I did high school theater, I did a lot of like theater West Virginia stuff,
Oh
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
a lot of people like working and doing the thing like in a space that I was also in that had built a bridge to go to that next stage. And so I was like, I could probably find something to do. I thought I would probably end up working like in the New York City like newsroom circuit doing
Mm-hmm.
camera work or something like that, which I think St. John's is a great program if you're trying to do stuff like that, as well as film and TV in a more narrative sense too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's where the craziness of Hollywood started, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
in some way, shape, or form. But I didn't think about moving out here until I was graduating from undergrad, and people were saying like, "Oh, what are you gonna do? Like, do you have a plan?" And I just lied and said I was going to grad school. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, fuck, I have to apply so that when they ask me how it's going, then I can say, oh, I applied here. So I like went through the motions of it, and then they let me in somewhere. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll go.
So you
See
got
what
into USC, right? To do grad school in film and television production again. At what point in this process, you're studying, thinking you might work on the technical side, first acting, then technical side. At what point were you like, oh no, I'm a writer. This is what I want to do?
well, I've been writing like my whole life. When I was little, we would like go to the park and make up stories about passerbys and stuff like that. And so I like have little children's books that I wrote as a kid bound in like drawers somewhere in West Virginia. But I think like in undergrad, I thought that documentary work would be more impactful,
Mm-hmm.
because like it's this sort of idea of like communicating the reality of a situation and like involving people in the lives of others in this way. And I think that is very beneficial. But I also think like part of experiencing and building relationships and having discussions with people of so many different backgrounds is like the commonality and the power of like dreams and possibility in different communities, and like being able to see oneself doing the impossible, like being the hero, taking down the like corporate like institutions and things like that. It hit me how powerful that really is. And so I kind of wanted to be in a space where people that like hadn't really seen themselves, like I don't think I've ever seen anyone that truly reminds me of who I am as an individual on screen. And so I wanted to have fun doing that, as well as like sneaking in the what does Jordan Peele say? He's like the medicine and the candy. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because like I obviously like documentaries are great. I'm a fan, but for the most part, there's a limited reach to them. Like it's just not everybody's gonna see it. And it does feel sometimes like it's just like, taking your vitamins versus, a film can like have an impact on a person and they don't even realize the impact it's having. So that's I think Jordan Peele puts it a very good way. And speaking of Jordan Peele, a lot of my listeners to the show, and a lot, of course, is a very relative term, are pre-WGA, are working their way toward this industry. So I like to talk about sort of the journey to getting your foot in the door. And you're one of the first guests I've had, I think, that started on the production company side, that started on the development side. You worked at Monkey Paw for a little while. So what was that like, being on the other side of the table before you were working as a writer, being on that, the other side of a general meeting?
It was really fun. I loved it. I loved that work. I loved that job. I think like my favorite part is always like finding ways to build this. We're all leading to one collective experience, like a movie, a podcast, a show, whatever. Like that's a collective experience. And so the like individual stories and connections that we make along the way all snowball into this one thing that everyone then like takes in and has a discussion or feels together in. And so like having the opportunity to see all those little threads and like meet those people and help bring them together was really fruitful. And I started at Monkey Paw as an intern. I hit them up on Twitter.
Oh wow.
Yeah, back when I had social media. in those dark days, I hit them up and I was like, hey, can I come visit the office? And Matthew Cherry, who worked there at the time, said, hey, send me a DM, and he sent me like someone's email address. I sent my resume over, and they were like, come out to this address. It was a house in the Hollywood Hills. I was like, this is a trap. I'm gonna wake up in a bathtub. My kidney is gonna be gone. Like, but I had an experience, so it's fine. And then I went in there, and I ended up working my way up to creative exec before I skedaddled. But it was like a really wonderful like time to learn, especially with a company that was really growing and is so much different now than it was in like 2017 or 2018 when I started working there. But that's like one of the core pieces of advice I would give to people that are looking for like opportunities is like hit people up. Like don't say hi, hello, give me job, obviously, but like,
even though it worked for you.
Even though it does work in rare instances, but I think like, hey, what's up? I love you. I love what you do there. I love the work that this company does. Like, I would love to like get coffee and pick your brain, or like Zoom with you for 15 minutes and just like learn about what your journey was to this role and position. And I did that all the time when I was on that side. Oh my God, the timer just came up.
I know, you got 10 minutes.
It's so short. Oh
it's
my
so
God.
short.
But I would have like lots of really good conversations with people who would then send me their resumes, and then when something came up, I would be like, pew, here's this person, pew, here's that person. So like beating the pavement and like finding places. You have to think about where you want to be, and how you want to position yourself, like in terms of what you want in the industry. So I always knew like I want to be a creative. Like I think ultimately I want to write and direct features. But like the pathway that I've taken is I've tried to put myself in spaces with people that I feel like I can learn a bunch from. And I loved Get Out. And so I reached out to the people that made that, because I knew I would learn something about the type of art that I wanted to create in that space. And sometimes you got to work it like Viacom or whatever, but
Sure.
if you can, hit the little guys first, and then
Mhm.
jump into the corporate shark waters if that's what you want for yourself. You don't have to do it. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's really inspiring because, like, yeah, I think people are scared of the ask of just like, and there's a difference between like, you know, I'm sure you've dealt with this too, of just like, hey, well, here's a movie idea. Here, like, don't send people your movie ideas. But like, if it's just like, I want to talk to you about the industry, like, I'm looking for opportunity, like, people want to help. Like, this is a hard industry to break into, and I think paying it forward for a lot of us is like the only way we feel like I know how to give back. So I would agree with that advice. I would encourage people to like not be afraid of asking for that kind of stuff. Um, you know, you're back in West Virginia during the pandemic. That's when you start writing to like, I'm going to make the switch. I'm actually going to write now as my job. How did that happen? How did you make that transition? How did you get your foot in the door on the other side of the industry?
Okay, so what had happened was I was a development coordinator at the time. My friend Michelle asked me if I had a script, because she had a friend who was getting a show together, and I said no because I didn't. But I said I'll get you one, and then I took a weekend and like Fugue State wrote 27 pages, like a little pilot, sent it over. I didn't hear shit for months.
Yep.
And I was like, that was a horrible idea. I don't know who I thought I was. What is wrong with me? And then these dudes hit me up from 3 Arts, Daniel Vang and Ollie Opes, and they were like, "Hey, like read your script, loved your material, like would love to talk to you about staffing somewhere or whatever. Like whatever you want to do, let's talk about your career, whatever." And I was like, okay, who are you? Why do you have this? Like, what's going on? I called Michelle. She was like, oh yeah, I sent your script to like a ton of people. So what's up to Michelle Willens at Spring Hill? She is a true saint. And got on then. But they said, hey, let us see if we can get you staffed. I was like, sure, I'm not leaving my job though. They're like, no worries. And I got a staff writing gig, because my first meeting that they set up was with Craig DiGregorio, who co-show ran Kevin Can Fuck Himself with Valerie Armstrong. And they were just so nice, and like I want to like help change the world with my art or whatever, but I also like want to work with nice people.
That's a very big deal. Yeah.
It's so important to work with nice people, and so far I'm like I have a pretty good track record of working with nice people. And so I did that mini room. It was like 8 weeks, and I would do my staff meeting for Monkey Paw at 9, get in the room from 10 to noon, do my generals and notes calls from like noon to 2 while we had
my God.
back in the room from 2 to 5. And I was on the East Coast, so I was like Gollum by the end of it.
Oh my God.
But it was an amazing experience, a really good learning experience. And I'm very grateful for that being my entry, because I think if you start out doing some crazy shit, then like when shit is regular, you're sort of like, oh, this is good, this is fine, like whatever. So I would recommend doing something very insane to start, and then when shit is like a regular like 9 to 5 or 10 to 4 or whatever, and things are popping off, you're like, this is fine because I used to do whatever. I used to like juggle swords while I was doing this same thing. So
Let's talk a little bit about, we don't have that much time left. We're under 5 minutes now. I want to hear more about the Black Film Allegiance, where you are the director of development. So I would love to hear about what that work entails, what the goal of that organization is, how can people support it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for highlighting that. I think
Yeah, of course.
that's one of the things that I like want to just make sure has as much like breadth and growth over the next few years as possible. Because what we really want to do is provide a space for filmmakers to like network with each other, meet each other. We have a directory of filmmakers on our website. If anyone's looking for like Black talent in any field, they can find them there. We just started like a rental service on ShareGrid with a bunch of equipment that was donated. And it's discounted for people that are part of our community. So like, I think in school, you hear a lot of like, oh, just go shoot it on your phone, like just do it like Tangerine, like whatever. But that costs money.
It does cost money.
It costs tons of money. Like, I don't know where you think I'm getting this money to shoot this beautiful iPhone movie. Like, yes, it was made with one of these, but also like a lot of money and intention went into that. So we're trying to remove some of the cost barriers to that experience so we can have more voices in the conversation. And I think like providing opportunities for like us to meet like other voices and to work with each other is really important. I think I was thinking about this the other day, like the last room that I was in was the first room that I think actually in my first room there was another Black person, but like 2 out of 4 shows I've been the only Black person in the room. And like that is not the experience that I want to have as a writer. And I think often if you come from an intersecting identity, like people have you for your experience, and it should be like for our skills as writers as well. And we all have different skill sets that are like diverse within and without our separate like identity spaces and communities. And so like the more people that we can get in the room, the better. And that's sort of why Black Film Allegiance exists, to provide like access to that hidden curriculum and opportunities for people.
I love that. That's really cool. And is there a website or somewhere people can like check it out or donate or anything like that?
Yes, it's bfallegiance.com. I think that might be
great. I'll put a link in the description just in case that's wrong.
It's
Less than 2 minutes to go. So I want to give this opportunity to plug anything that you want to plug to. I mean, I was going to say, usually I tell people where people can follow them, but you must be an emotionally healthy person because you're not anywhere people can follow you.
I can't be followed unless you come to my house. Apparently, I leave the door open. So you could come to my house. Other things to check out. I mean, check out Lala Vargas's campaign for City Council District 14. He's running against Kevin De Leon, and that guy sucks. So let's have someone in there that's like really for the people. What else should I plug? I don't know. Like, I'm nice. If you see me in the picket line, like, please come.
I can confirm that.
Come to the pickets.
Come to the picket. You can follow her at Netflix. Speaking of the pickets, I did read an interview where you said that you're an introvert. I don't see that. I don't see that on the picket line. Like, you do a great job. You bring all the energy, you bring the chants, you make people happy. So like, good on you. That's like, it means a lot, I think, to people out there to have good energy from the captain. So, you always bring it. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's like
with our little bit of remaining time. I'm sorry, I don't mean to speak over you. We have very little time left, so I do want to get to know you on an even deeper level at this point. Jasmyne, what do you think happens after we die?
I honestly, vibes. Whatever religion, whatever like belief system you're in, like some vibes happen.
Your meeting has ended. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to 39-Minute Conversations, hosted and produced by Brian T. Arnold. Music by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and tune in for new episodes, and don't forget to rate and review. If you didn't like what you heard, please don't do any of that. That's okay too. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe and be well.